Hi, everyone. Welcome. We are stoked to be here right now for a roundtable presented by the North Face and Snowboarder magazine. I'm Mary Walsh. I'm the senior editor at Snowboarder, and we have gathered here today to, that sounds too much like a wedding. So today we are excited to have this incredible group assembled in order to discuss their opinions, their point of views, their perspective on snowboarding, share stories, their experience, and the way that they feel about the filming of Facets and far beyond about snowboarding in general. This roundtable is an opportunity to get an inside look at what it's like to be not only a member of the North Face team, but be an individual that is advancing snowboarding both for women and in general. So first off, because you guys represent a really cool span of generations of snowboarding, I wanted to first kind of put Bonnie in the hot seat and talk about where we've come from.
So I first got on a snowboard in 1984. I grew up a skier, but I got on a Sims. It was yellow plastic, had fins, just jump on with your Sorels kind of thing. And it was awesome. Of course, it was super fun. And that was just sort of how I launched into snowboarding. And just started riding with both Jim and Tom Bert, and we were partners for rock climbing initially through college. And so we just kind of morphed into snowboarding together as well. And then like 1986 to 88, 89, we were traveling, and we were sponsored by Avalanche Snowboards and just traveled around and did the competitions, it was a hand dug half pipe. So we did that, slalom, downhill, moguls. It was kind of, a rolling party of about 50 or 60 people that just traveled around the West, and wherever resorts allowed us is where we would end up for competitions. And then things kind of changed in the 1988 World competitions sponsored by Swatch, when we were at this competition, and unfortunately it became clear that the title sponsor was manipulating scores behind the scenes, and it was very frustrating and challenging for us. And we sort of recognized that, all right, maybe competing is not where we want to be. And we sort of collectively decided, myself and Jim and Tom, that we would want to take our climbing background to the mountains. And we're like, well, let's switch gears here and have control over our situation. Like, we want to be able to have control of what we're doing and where we're going with snowboarding. And we, discussed this with Chris and Bev Sanders, who are the owners of Avalanche Snowboards. And they, of course, were like, oh, you can't, be professional snowboarders and go climb mountains and do descents and travel and film and make that's just not going to happen. But we gave it a try, and it actually turned out that it worked for us.
Like in general?
Yeah. Like, you started in the streets, and like now you spend a lot of time in the backcountry. So kind of, how did you make that jump?
Okay, wait. Let's rewind a little more. I started in the border cross track.
No way.
Yeah.
That is a hidden fact that you don't see very often about you. That's amazing. Wait, that was the first thing that you did, was like border cross? That's intense. That's like video game intense.
Well, the first thing I did was just like the competitions at my local hill, and it was like a trifecta. You had to do all three to get points to like win the toque or the beanie, sorry, at the end of the year, or like the water bottle or whatever they were giving away. So I did half pipe, border cross, and slope style, and I thought that I like sucked at freestyle. But all you have to do in border cross was like, I don't know. This actually kind of goes back to what Bonnie was saying about when she found out like all the results or the judges were like fucking around with the stuff. I felt like, cause I wasn't in like the crew or didn't do any of like the snowboard clubs or any of that stuff, that my like runs were getting judged shittily. But the thing about border cross was whoever crosses the finish line first wins. So I think that's what like appealed to me at first. And then I just went with it. And then we got a rail, one rail at our resort. And I was like, oh, this is pretty easy. Cause I used to do gymnastics, and being on a rail is pretty much, well, like those fat rails or a box is like being on a balance beam. Wow. That sounds so kooky, but it was really easy to balance on it. And that's all it is. And people were like, whoa, you're sick at that. And I was like, I don't know, like that was very easy. And then someone showed me Think Tank videos, and I realized like, oh, you can like find stuff in the street for free. You don't even have to buy a pass. And I was lucky enough to live in a town that had snow in town, and the rest is history.
My whole perception has changed. Now I know that you're a border crossing gymnast. This is just
shock gymnast.
Everything in my mind is blown.
Ruining my reputation.
I've never seen a handstand. Next time I see you, I'm going to demand a flip. And you've mentioned before, kind of in other interviews and stuff, that one of the things, and if you don't talk about this, totally okay, but one of the things that you encountered was when you were so successful filming in the streets and everything, that when you decided that you wanted to go into the backcountry, it wasn't the easiest sell to your sponsors and to kind of the industry to do that. Do you want to speak on that a little bit, or?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not afraid to tell the truth. But yeah, my sponsors were not like, oh yeah, that's a good idea. They were like, well, I think like with girls stuff, people were so cautious for so many years that like, cause they had thought, oh, girls like pink, let's put out this pink board. And then the board doesn't sell because they didn't ask any girls, what should we put on the board? And then they're like, oh, girls marketing is scary because we don't know how to approach it. So they wanted to be like very cautious about stuff. Like I remember at first when I was trying to sell like to my sponsors, like, hey, or like whatever small sponsorship that I had, like, please, I want to film a video part, please, please, please. And they were like, oh no, that's not a thing. That like, have you thought about doing contests, you know? And then I filmed that part, and then they didn't question it since. So I thought that if I wanted to try riding the backcountry, that they would also not question it. But they weren't like they didn't have like bad intentions, but I think it was more like they were like trying to look out for me, you know, to keep my career going, instead of, they were saying like, oh, other girls haven't successfully done the transition like out of contests into the backcountry or whatever it was. So for the first few years, I actually would like sneak into the backcountry, not sneak, but like I bought a sled and I would be like in Revelstoke with my boyfriend being like, yeah, I'm doing a street trip here. And yeah, in between sledding days, I was filming street features in Revelstoke. I know every street feature in Revelstoke, by the way, because I was like, I'm staying here. But in between, I was like sneaking out to go learn how to sled. And then like when I submitted my footage at the end of the year, we just like throw in a couple cheese wedge shots but there was definitely no time to be like, I want to learn how to ride down the mountain properly or anything. It was just like, go out there and get a shot. Otherwise you're going to get caught.
Wow. Wow. It's so interesting to hear that, because it's like when you're describing your experience, Bonnie, that was, you know, the decade before this, it was like everyone was doing it and it was really cool. And then it seems like we almost got like kind of more defined and more boxed heading into like the early 2000s when you guys were breaking into the backcountry on your end. And, you know, everyone's like, I don't know, seems worrisome.
I agree with you. I think like it went a little bit like there was so much hype in the early 2000s. That's kind of when I ended up coming up into the contest world, and the video scene was all like, there was the forum team and Mac Dog was going strong. But for women specifically, there was only like 1 or 2 women in those videos. And for the general majority of people, women specifically, our route to professional sports was through contests and competing. So yeah, it was a little bit non-traditional to follow the film path at that point, I think, because all the energy was into the contest scene.
Totally. And during that time was when you first took it on yourself to work with women to start creating your own projects, correct?
Yeah, I had, I'd always been influenced by the snowboard movies. I never really followed any contests unless there was like X Games in Canada on TV, which was never. So yeah, I really religiously followed Tara Takitis, Barrett Christie, Shannon Dunn, anything that was in that, was it Fresh and Tasty Snowboard magazine?
Yeah.
Transworld. I would just like scour the magazines to find the other women because I was just so inspired. I mean, so I ended up getting sponsored on snowboard.com through a little sponsor me video.
Oh my God.
And snowboard.com was like the Facebook of snowboarding. It was, I think it had 1 million followers or
Wow.
participants.
Got memories of that.
Yeah, I ended up getting like a random message from Bobby Meeks and Corey Grove, and they were like, "Oh, do you want to ride for K2?" And I was like, "This cannot be the real Bobby Meeks." And sure enough, they sent me a contract in the mail with 2 snowboards.
Wow.
And that started my competition career because they were like, "Oh, we'll bring you to the Vans Triple Crown." And so, yeah, I went from filming a little bit to contest world, and I left that into the backcountry. To be honest, when I first started, I bought a snowmobile, and my boyfriend Jeff was like, "Who's gonna take you?" And I'm like, "You, obviously." And that was it. I didn't think about the safety aspect. I was like, "Oh, I'm just gonna do what I see in the movies."
Well, first, I just want to start off by giving a shout out to Jess. We were just talking about snowmobiles, and during the whole time period where I pretty much decided I was like completely walking away from everything about snowboarding so I could snowboard, because the only relevancy I had in the industry wasn't on a snowboard. So I was like, cool, I'm gonna leave that and I'm gonna go snowboard. And at that same time, I had just gotten a truck, and so I got a sled and I drove it to Canada. I'm like, "Jess, I'm coming. I brought a sled." And I get up there and we're going out the first day with Leanne's boyfriend, Jeff. And I, like 100 yards out of the trailhead, my sled is just broken down. It's done. It's like a total piece of shit sled that some jerk sold to me in Colorado. It was like, had modifications everywhere, was spewing oil, was just like totally trashed. So I took it to the sled mechanic in Pemberton, and he was like, "You got to get rid of this thing. Like, there's no hope for you." And so then Jess, she was hurt at the moment. She loaded up her baby, like her sled that is like very meaningful, and gave it to me for a couple days so I could go out and like get a bunch of shinners and blow out my back and cry and dig and do all of that stuff. And that's a huge part of sledding, you know, just having people to go be out there while you're crying and you can't figure it out. But I also lucked out because this newer sleds now, they're just like, I can't imagine what you guys were doing like 10 years ago.
Dude, we were on the Turtle going over bumps, and it was the worst forever.
But yeah, so that's like, there were times where like things would work out well, but the kind of for most of it's when Bonnie said that people are like, "Oh, you have to do contests, like you can't just climb mountains and snowboard down them," or something like that. That I got that so much. I was like, no, like I like this. I had started trail running, and I was like, no, there's something to this. Like I like doing this. And there was so much hate throughout. And I only started splitboarding 5 years ago. Like this is nothing that long standing, but for the first few years, I had many people tell me that I was just out to lunch, and they like the second that I like gave it all up and I was like, I'm done pleasing people, I'm just going to do my thing. That's when I like started getting support and getting sponsors and like having filming opportunities. And yeah, you got to walk to you do your own drum, I guess. It just took me a long time to figure that out.
What was it like to finally be able to bring the whole team together and ride together? It was good.
Sorry, I was waiting for somebody else to talk.
It was sick. It was so sick.
Have you guys, I mean, this team has only been together for the last 2 seasons, correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
So you guys have ridden together as a crew before, or was this like
No.
the first time, or this was the first time that you got
Yeah,
that?
Yeah, I don't think there's ever been a time that all 4 of us, maybe I was thinking Riders Poll might be the only time that 4 of us have even all been in the same room. Then we all, spend time in the same places all the time. But yeah, it was crazy to have that, like everyone was so competent. And then we all just came together and like everyone took care of their own shit. And then you looked over and you're like stoked on what they're working on. You're stoked on that. And they're looking at yours and they're stoked on what you're doing. And you're like picking stuff out for each other. And like, we all know how to do this, but we all usually have to do it on our own to like maintain our own whatever it is we're doing. And so then to all come together and everyone's all on the same page, all dialed, like we all know how to film and be on a trip together. I was so excited about the potential until it got cut short.
So yeah, to set the stage for this, you guys, this was the beginning of March of 2020. You were near the handrail mecca of Revelstoke, but you were in Retallick. And you guys had kind of all descended there, literally, directly before kind of, the elephant in the room, the world kind of upended itself with the global pandemic. So you guys all go there and you were winter camping, right?
Okay, yeah, we were camping with no service. Like it wasn't like we were fake camping. We were actually camping. It was -30 and we had no cell service. And then we were at Retallick, but we weren't like cat skiing. We got dumped off in a field like far away, put together these giant dome tents. And then so like every couple of days we were coming back to the lodge for whatever we had to do. And they would be like I remember the first time we came back, they were like, oh, things are getting weird out there. And we were like, whatever, like, what are you guys talking about? And then we like go back to our campsite. Then we come back a few days later and the guy would be like, the world as we know it has changed. And we'd be like, what the fuck is going on? Because we didn't have the news. We didn't have the internet. We didn't have anything. And then, yeah, we couldn't believe it. I was like, these people are freaking out for nothing. And then it turns out like, boom, pandemic. So
that is a crazy time to be out of service.
Yeah.
It was also crazy that Mac had the foresight to tell us that our lives were going to change at that moment, because we did not believe that.
That was the guy at Retallick that was telling you that.
Yeah.
That's crazy. So they were just watching the news and they were like, this is a crew of women out in the woods. They don't realize the world is ending.
We had no idea.
So you guys are in the middle of the woods, kind of, cut off from everything that's happening. And you're winter camping. And I wanted to touch back on what Amanda was saying with the kind of the collaboration, just how cohesive you guys were right off the bat. Does that come from, similar outlooks or just all the experience you guys are bringing to the table, or why do you think it worked so well?
I don't know, but I thought it was cool to see, like, I know that, like, I could really tell that Leanne has been filming for the longest. It was sick to see, like, she just got it. And she would even like make me feel better about taking a long time to set up a shot and like pull out her drone and help, like from a filmmaking perspective and just from like a, hey, do you think I can actually do this perspective? That was pretty cool to see in real life. So.
No, totally. And actually, like, I feel like the way Jess films is how I used to. We all have different approaches to how we film and what we want to ride. So it was pretty cool to see Jess zone in on like a pillow feature and want to hit it. And then my creative side came out. I was like, do you think I can drone you? Because I think it'll be fun. It was so cold on that trip. Like, as far as film productivity, like it was like, yeah, -30. And you had to have all of your gear on, like in your little sleeping bag. And I don't know, it took us like a few hours to get warmed up in the morning. It wasn't like go, go, go. It was like, I'm gonna die in the morning. Can we find a fire?
Oh my God. What was one of the highlights of winter camping?
Being cozy in the Inferno sleeping bag, I'd have to say. Like, I also had a warm water bottle that I put down by my feet, and I had never really spent much time in cold weather, so feeling cozy was like pretty sweet. And then but I got so parched in the middle of the night and it was too cold to get out of my tent, so I decided that I should maybe drink the water that was in my water bottle by my feet. And it was like, it said do not drink, but I just drank it anyways, and I thought I was gonna die. It was like chemicals. That's my story. I was by myself. I was just like, oh my God, am I gonna die?
Oh my God, so you're having a panic in the middle of a tent in the middle of no sense.
Wait, no.
Negative
We
100.
sorry, speaking of dying in your tent, we got like oxygen deprivation. Don't you guys remember? Because we didn't know that we were supposed to keep like these tents aren't like the winter tents. They're not like mesh like the summer tents. So we had all the windows and everything zipped up tight. Like it was kind of, to be honest, like not Amanda's first time probably, but my first time winter camping for real. And kept waking up in the middle of the night feeling like I was having a panic attack, being like, I can't breathe. I can't breathe. And then apparently like the next morning I was like, oh, I'm such a dork. Like, but then we hear like from Leslie and Mary that they also freaked out in the night because they couldn't breathe too, because you just like use up all the oxygen in the tent.
Oh my God.
That's crazy. Keep your vents open, guys.
That's a learning curve that most people wouldn't think about. I mean, I wouldn't think about that.
We're just in the Dutch oven, gotta keep it in.
Oh yeah, I was in Amanda's tent. Poor Amanda. We were eating cheesies and farting in there.
You have a lot of fiber in your diet.
Yeah.
Bonnie, I'm sure you're familiar with the smell.
Oh yeah.
I feel like that doesn't get talked about enough, like what winter camping truly smells like.
Right? I know. After a few days, it's like, oh boy. Yeah.
Oh, Bonnie, so you've gone winter camping a fair amount as well?
I have, yes. Yeah. Enough to know that I'm good with summer camping these days. Just, like your boots are frozen in the morning. It's like, okay, we got to get up and get going. It's dark and you're freezing and you're trying to cram your feet into your frozen boots. And it's just not that much fun. But of course, once you get going and once you get out there and you start moving, it's totally worth it, because you're always in an amazing place. But it's hard to get out of your nice warm bag and stick your feet into frozen boots. It's not easy.
And you still splitboard a lot now, right? As well?
Yeah. Actually, this year, because it's such a great year, I'm not going to get a pass anywhere for the first time in many, many years, and just go strictly backcountry and just skip the resort, because I don't know what's going to happen there. It's going to be weird anyway. So just stick to the backcountry.
That kind of actually, I would love to talk about that with all you guys a little bit more. Kind of jumping ahead, but looking into this winter, what are your guys' thoughts?
I think a lot of people have the same sentiment as Bonnie, kind of forgetting about the ski resort rules, and they're thinking they're going to get rad in the backcountry. And I think the worry is that a lot of people without proper preparation are going to get out there and be on top of each other, and things are going to happen. So I think the important message to get out there is, have you done an ACE-T1 or an RE course? Do you have the knowledge to be able to rescue your partner if something happens? That kind of stuff, I think, is going to come into play. So people, be safe.
Yeah, I'm excited to stay close to home and be in the mountains around here. And I think I'm trying to form a way of dealing with the added stressor of increased traffic in the backcountry. And for right now, I want to like try to just take an extra breath when I see something, take a deep breath, remember when I was that person, and then try to avoid any really big messes that I see. But I think keeping your eye out or your mind on the human factor, that's going to be just so important this year is knowing what other, like establishing communication with other people, trying to be respectful, but also staying safe.
Just to interject, for anyone that maybe is watching and is getting stoked about heading into the backcountry but doesn't have as much experience, could you just quickly explain what you mean when you reference the human factor?
Oh yeah. So backcountry safety, there's the kind of physical, like beacon, shovel, probe. Those are the tools that you use when you're out to find each other. If someone in your party gets buried, that's how you physically find them. And then you get an education, and so that's like less of a physical thing, and that helps you look at terrain and decide what is safe, what is not, how you're going to go into it with everyone, how you're going to talk about it. And then there's always the human factor, which is like the thing that exists that maybe you don't voice or your partner doesn't voice, or it's a misunderstanding you have with a different party that you saw passing by you. And so it's other people's decisions if they're riding above you, or if you end up if they walk underneath you. It's just you always have to be open to there being this alternative issue. Even if your education is on point and your gear is on point, there's always some other thing that you got to watch out for.
Something that's kind of, I guess, out of your control a little bit, but you can mitigate how you interact with it as much as possible, and you're responsible.
Yeah, to have an awareness, really, just to know that there's something else going on, which there typically is with everything. But
it's also like within our own crew, it's knowing your own risk tolerance, and then does it match up with everybody else in the crew? And if it doesn't, then people just need to communicate that. Because far too often somebody will lead the crew thinking it's safe, and somebody else might not want to go, but they go with the flow, and then something happens. And then other people in the crew are like, oh, well, I was thinking that too. So I think communication is really important before you set out and tackle any objective.
Yeah, I think that's the classic example that you talk about, or experience is being. You want to have some confidence in being able to speak up when you feel concerned, even if it's just for your own comfort level, which is totally okay. What's the saying? It's slow is smooth and smooth is
fast. Yeah. Yeah. I actually even experienced that human factor in getting into an avalanche myself. I was feeling uneasy about first thing in the morning getting onto this big face. And so I chose a line that I thought was safe-ish. And the whole thing slid. And that was a big realization for me to maybe say something next time.
Where were you when that happened?
That was during the filming of Defiance. I was in the Pemberton Mountains with Victor Delarue and Jake Blavelt.
Wow. And I'm sure there's challenges about that. It's, those are two individuals that but maybe don't film with quite as much. So trying to establish that rapport and comfort, is that a challenge when you're with a new crew or newer crew?
Yeah, for sure. I think it was the first day of our big heli experience in the backcountry. And I kind of knew what had happened in the weather the last few weeks prior to that. So I knew there was a little bit of an instability. We had cold sunny weather, and there was some faceting going on, and then we had 40 to 50 cms dump. So I knew there was a potential for a storm slab release, but I was intimidated to speak up about it. And we just showed up, and the back of my mind was maybe we should warm up or test another face, same aspect, smaller slope. But all the cameras were set up and ready to go. So I was pretty nervous. And the first run, I ended up just going as fast as I could with light edging. And I gave myself a false confidence and reading on that slope. And so it was my second run. I was super comfortable and I was just making these turns. It was gonna be fun. And I popped off a little thing and then boom, the whole thing. I was in the middle and I was just like, I'm screwed. It was a size 2 and I was caught in the middle of it. I had no other option either to straight line at a 45. I actually had memorized that line pretty well and I knew my exit. So my first option was just to get out of it. I barely stayed on my board. I was just thinking, keep your nose up. And I think my nose was literally like high in the sky. And I think I touched down on my butt and still kept going. The thing was just pushing me so fast. I had an airbag. I didn't pull it. I finally got out of its way and I just got onto my toe edge quickly. And the whole thing, like in my GoPro footage, these pew, 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 pew. Like it was just, I just got out of it and then it just roared past me. So it was a crazy experience. Like I didn't think that I ever had the capability of unleashing like full on beast mode, and something brought me out of there because it was crazy. The reality is you can't eliminate all the hazards out there, but you can eliminate the risk. Like avalanche conditions can be high, but I can go to a spot in the backcountry where I know it's completely safe and still have fun. So taking those things, I guess just taking note of the hazards and then being able to choose terrain to eliminate those hazards is something that we have to do on a daily basis.
What are the resources that you guys might recommend for anyone who's really interested in kind of learning more about the backcountry, setting out? Like, what do you guys use and what would you recommend to someone?
In Canada, I would recommend avalanche.ca as a main resource to check the avalanche conditions. There's so many different companies that offer courses, but one of the courses that I found really useful, it was in the States actually, it was Safe As. I did a Safe As clinic with the girls in Squaw and it was amazing. I would highly recommend that to any Americans. And then in Canada, there's so many companies. In Whistler, there's Altus Mountain Guides. There's I don't even know all the names of the companies, but there's a lot. There's also a Know Before You Go, KBYG.org. Maybe Amanda could speak to that. I think it's in Utah.
Yeah, we're super lucky here in Utah. We have the Utah Avalanche Center, and they have just amazing forecasting. And there's a ton of people out every day submitting observations, and our forecast is a lot more detailed and accurate than a lot of other places in the country. So that's really nice. And Know Before You Go is they've really stepped it up because it's usually hard to get into an avalanche course when you don't really even know why you need that. So Know Before You Go is kind of this free program. It's not as time, you don't have to commit as much time to it. And they kind of give you the stepping stones of how to know something before you go. And because it's good to like be familiar with a few things before you do like an Avi 1 course or something like that, just so you can really let the knowledge sink in. And then the other thing I was going to say is there's this ski guide, Mark Smiley, and he has a website called Mountain Sense, and it's MTNSENSE. And he has a ton of online courses, anything from ski mountaineering to avalanche to crevasse rescue, everything like that. But he's got a pretty good sense of humor and is super knowledgeable. And you get to become part of this like secret Facebook where you can ask him questions and stuff like that. So I think I'd really recommend checking that out because a lot of avalanche courses are already sold out this year, and they will be.
I think just to add in that, like, the resources that you guys are describing are phenomenal. And so if anyone also, if you're in an area that hasn't been touched on, you can usually Google like Colorado, avalanche, the organization, you can add the mountain range or the area that you're in. Like there's one in the Sierra, there's one in the Eastern Sierra, there's one in the Northeast based off Mount Washington, I believe. All the different regions of Canada have them. So if you most avalanche centers at this point have Instagram, have Twitter, or they have Facebook. And I think, like Amanda said, the Utah Avi is insane. Their Instagram is amazing. Even if you don't live there, you can learn a lot just by following their Instagram. I kind of wanted to double back a little bit to filming Facets and also the Backcountry talk that we're discussing, and talk about the unique situation that I think it's worth mentioning, that there are not many teams in snowboarding that have a couple women, let alone 5 women on them, you know? And I think that's a pretty special, potentially cool thing.
Definitely. I think in the past, it's been hard to get a place on any team. And even once you're on the team, my experience has been that you're still kind of like shoved aside and ignored or cut out of things. And it was a really cool feeling to all be welcome. And to have like a project that was ours instead of just like some scabby thing on the side that maybe we'll be invited to, but we're not actually allowed to like hit anything or whatever it is, you know? I got crazy stories of shit, like spending 2 hours to build a jump and then some asshole on the team rides sideways through my landing, like just to like flex, like you don't belong here, you know? And I think it was so cool to be there and feel like, wow, like these filmers are here to actually film us. This company actually gave a shit enough to send us to this dope lodge and send us -40 sleeping bags that I think are really expensive. So yeah, it was just cool. It was just cool to be part of something that like we were supposed to be there. We were asked to be there and we were meant to be there.
Yeah, I think just generationally, the way that we are, I kind of like straddle this zone between the old ways of one girl at like on a per team, and then I've been with a lot of the girls that are coming up, and there's so many of them. Try to have only one on a team, you can't. There's just too many, and so it's been. I think one of the coolest things was like, especially like Jess and Leanne, they're from like the generation ahead of me, where it really is pretty cutthroat on like, even if there's more than one girl, it's like, you're the backcountry girl, you're the street girl, you're the contest girl. Like there's no room for multiple of them. And so Jess and Leanne have really like hardened themselves out doing their shit. Like when Jess said, you could tell Leanne is a machine filming. Like you gotta keep up. You gotta show up, because if you don't, she's gonna get all the shots. Like it's and so to think about her out there doing that, like kind of on the side of some like team project that it's like mostly a bunch of dudes, and she's out there doing that to try to just get something. And then like Jess has been doing the same thing. I'm doing the same thing. Mary's, you know, and to see Jess and Leanne come together and be able to look at each other and be like, word, and then to me, I'm just like I'm the recipient of this, because now instead of being out with just Leanne or just Jess and us like making it work, now I see them working together and we all just start to get hyped up, and I'm just like, think of all the years that there wasn't this ability to have a couple girls to just be like, hey, this is a good idea, right? Because like even coming into it, like I'm still programmed with like, okay, like what, like who's on the chopping block? Like there can't actually be this many girls on a team. Like that sounds insane.
Sorry.
No, that's great.
It was his dinner time half an hour ago. He's like trying to get my attention.
But because for me, it was pretty surreal to get on North Face. And then when it was a bunch of us. So I was just like trying to figure out like what it all meant, like if there was levels, what's going on or something. And then this trip, I had the same realization as Jess. I was like, oh, we're all supposed to be here. Like one of us coming out of this trip, like with not enough shots. It's not like, oh, you're cut there. North Face is like, we genuinely want you all to do stuff. And I would, wow, it's amazing.
And then we had to leave after 4 days.
I know, it was such a hard
Like classic women's snowboarding. You can't even make this shit up.
It was such a cool opportunity. And yeah, like going back to what the other girls said about me, I was equally inspired from what they were doing. And like, I see a lot of similarities in the way Jess works, and she's got something that like she knows she can do in her head. And she's like, I'm just going to go and do this. And I'm going to like sit here and work at it and grind it out. And I really appreciated that because I do the same thing. And so we have a similar approach to the way we look at the mountains and try to get a little freestyle. It was cool. And then Amanda's just like a little mountain goat. She's like over here. And Mary the whole time was actually snow surfing, and it just looked like so much fun. It was pretty rad to see.
That's sweet. Well, she's quite the surfer.
Yeah, totally. And just with the conditions the way they were, it lent itself perfectly to, you know, low angle snow surfing kind of vibe.
Yeah, totally.
Perfect. Yeah.
Bonnie, when you think about your path in snowboarding leading you to where you are now, still like getting after it in the mountains all the time and listening to these women and their experiences, what strikes you, you know, the similarities, the differences, just the evolution of where snowboarding was at and where it is now?
Well, I think it's first of all, when you know, looking at the film, it's clear that you guys enjoy each other's company and you're having fun. And I think that is probably one of the most important things, because snowboarding it wasn't designed as some sort of transportation like skiing was to get from point A to point B. Snowboarding is just fun. It's like you just jump on and you make these really great turns that just kind of make your stomach go, woo, that was awesome. Just sending it like right, left, just totally getting these great turns. And so the whole idea behind snowboarding is have fun. And I love that you guys are just really carrying on that tradition of this is fun and taking it wherever it is that you want to take it, so it's really nice to see this tradition carry on and so many more women becoming involved. And you guys are totally crushing it and doing a super good job with just like, let's have fun, let's shred it, let's get out there and just have a great time and show people that this is what we love to do. It's clear.
Yeah.
Now we just need to shred with you, Bonnie.
I was going to say, come on our next trip.
I would love to hook up with you guys. That'd be so awesome.
Definitely. I'll go. All the mountain stuff was really foreign to me until, like I said, I started splitboarding 5 years ago now, but before that, I came from Illinois and I didn't really have a ton of knowledge about mountains. Like I would go ride the park and everything when I was at resorts out west, but I had no idea like how to be outside of the mountains. And I smoked a bunch of cigarettes and just didn't really do anything besides stand behind a camera and film in the park or something. So I don't really know what made me flip that switch, but I had a whole bunch of stuff to learn once I decided I wanted to go in the mountains. And every step I take when I learn something, the self-confidence started to grow, not like of my abilities, but just of like it being okay that I exist and whatever, just the basic self-confidence. And so every time I would learn something, I'd get like more comfortable in this huge space. Like mountains are so intimidating. They're so big when you move through them. And I'd get more comfortable in this like really big, crazy space. And so that was like this like, it was a freebie out of the whole situation, because I was just thinking snowboarding, mountains, whatever. But the confidence that started to grow, I'm just like so thankful for that now. It's still growing, but the ability to like use your voice, say if you think something's sketchy, like call a friend out for not having their gear done properly, like making a plan, everything to be able to articulate your risk tolerance to somebody else and to participate in a exchange with them. Like all those tools they make you feel good just as a person. So it's like pursuing that education for me. I got a lot of confidence that I wasn't expecting.
When you have passion for something, it drives you to do things that you are scared of. And I think it's important to do things that you have fear for, whether it's getting a new job or jumping off a cliff. it's the same feeling that pulls you forward one more step. And so I think it's just these little series of building blocks that help us get to the path that we're on. And yeah, we're all unique and we all have different backgrounds and stories of to like how we got here, but all those little characteristics of having optimism, motivation, passion, those are the things that are going to drive us.
I feel like just moving through the mountains in whatever way you do is just so humbling. Like you feel like they're, you know, the mountains and the outdoors, it's all alive, you know, and all connected as it is. And the idea that you are allowed, so to speak, to move safely through the mountains and your pursuit of whatever it is, whether it's climbing or snowboarding or just going for a hike. It feels like it's, I don't know how to say it right, but I just feel like you're allowed and you're embraced into this world of being in the mountains outdoors, like, you know, on your own, just connecting. And for me, that's like my place. That's where I need to be. And I feel really connected. So I can just kind of empty my head and focus on whatever it is that I need to work out in my life or whatever. And it's just, it's my heart, it's my home. So that's, I don't know, that was stupid, but
No, it wasn't.
No, it's not. I think the feelings that we all share about snowboarding can sound really cheesy, but they're completely right on.
yeah.
Yeah, I'd say it's huge in life and in snowboarding, and that snowboarding sort of taught me how much I value perseverance and growth, and how much like that makes me feel alive and worthwhile and have purpose and reward in my life on and off the snowboard. But that you know, I learned a lot of that through snowboarding, and like getting up after you fail, day after day, trick after trick, hit after hit, whatever it is, like, and also being okay with failure and being able to know when to walk away, but continue to persevere. Yeah, I mean, the whole thing has been just climbing up, and I think that's why the backcountry too is so intriguing to me, because it seemed like that climb was endless, you know, and it could have been in the streets too. It isn't to say that you can't continuously persevere and grow in the streets. It was just for me that the backcountry spoke to me more, and that's really where I wanted to put my time and energy, and where I felt the most reward and the most connection in life. And yeah, I mean, what is life if you're not growing? The last thing I'd ever want to do is be stagnant, and snowboarding has really helped me to practice that in sport and carry it over in life. So yeah, I'm really grateful for that.
For me, it's more about like exploration, or just like being able to push yourself, whatever it is. Like, I realized that a lot of people don't have access to the backcountry. They don't live somewhere that they can go into the mountains. They don't have friends who can take them. They don't have a crew, or they don't even live near snow. But I think there's all sorts of ways to like enjoy the outdoors and push yourself, and not to feel like you need to become like a mountaineer in order to fit in back there. Like, you can also just be a kook on a sled who builds cheese wedges and hates it. Just joking. I love it. But I realized when we were making this thing that I've never actually like ridden a line. Like, I've ridden down a hill, but when we were at Retallick, I was just glad that Amanda didn't make me hike too far. I hiked for one of the shots. I ghost hiked, and then I just flopped.
Wait, what's ghost hiking?
Ghost hiking is like, they were like, can we get a shot of you guys all hiking together? And I was like, oh, hell no, I'm not walking up that thing. And you can see me in the back of the line being like, fuck, you guys get it yet?
That's
Yeah,
amazing.
but because Mary, I think your question's really good. I think it doesn't have to be specifically mountains though, because
Yeah.
like just putting yourself into all the situations that you have been filming in the streets as well, and just like, I don't know, pushing through adversity, as one may say. Yeah, you're good at it.
I want to give Jess props on the Uninvited for not only finishing one movie but two, and focusing on a group of girls that may not have had the chance to have any sort of visibility. I think, like, when I think about my career coming from the streets into the backcountry, and I love the backcountry so much, but when I look and see this project that you've created, I love it, and I love the vibe, and I think the energy and the vibe of the whole community coming to enjoy what you have created has impacted all of us so much. And yeah, it's just so good what you've done, and much respect.
Thanks, Leanne. I'm actually wearing a hat right now because I've started balding in the process.
You look great.
No one said movie making was easy.
Yeah. That's why you're wearing a hat too, and a mask.
Yeah.
It just came out really recently. Could you just maybe give everyone at home who might not be familiar with it and hasn't watched this awesome masterpiece that you are at the forefront of, what it is?
Yeah, it's an all-girls snowboard movie featuring 32 girls that absolutely kill it, and none of them get paid to snowboard, and all of them have waitressing jobs or work in warehouses or whatever it is to like fund their season. And I am sick of seeing that shit. Like, they should be supported. Like, maybe not every single one of them, but the ones that are riding at a level like higher than I could ride should be getting paid to snowboard. So that was like the point of the project, fueled by anger, but positive results.
It's really incredible. And if anyone hasn't checked that out yet, definitely, where can they watch it?
You can watch it on the Shredbots YouTube channel, but it's the links in my bio on my Instagram.
It's rad that this season, out of a winter that was pretty crazy, to see that coming out, to have, you know, the women's part in Tangle, to have Elena Heights movie coming out, to have Elena Heights movie coming out, and to have Facets dropping. I mean, there's a lot of really hammer projects that are coming out this fall to get everyone stoked for the season.
And like,
Girls are hungry.
Just to underscore like the monumental role Jess plays in people's lives. I just noticed it, but this tattoo right here is a date from 2012 when Jess called me, and she just like really told me that she believed in me, that I was really gonna make it as long as I kept trying. And 2012, I tattooed that date on my arm because I was like, Jess Kimura believes in me. Let's go.
How come you never told me that? I saw that in your notes for Facets and was like, she's fluffing me.
Yeah, sometimes you do that, and then you know, it was a little embarrassed maybe. I don't know.
Oh my God, I love you, Amanda. You're
the full circle right there.
That's amazing.
And so that's like what she's doing with the Uninvited, is just like continuously paving the roads to like opening up communications with sponsors, teaching girls how to film, how to, like, for me to see that much really high quality footage of girls snowboarding, like it's not like there's a lack of footage of girls snowboarding, but most of it's just like dad cam or shot with like the blurriest iPhone you can find or something. And the Uninvited too, it's just like the quality of filming, like the people behind cameras are camera people, you know, and to know that there's people that use cameras well, pointing them at girls, that is just like, so great job making that happen.
There's a shot in your movie in Ilfa's part where I just loved. It was like the filmer so stoked on the shot that he got of Ilfa doing that backflip.
Oh, totally. And when he saw the movie, he's like, yes, I have a shot in there. Like, guys used to be embarrassed to be associated with us. Okay. That was sick for sure.
Yeah, that was pretty cute.
That's really cool. Yeah, it's insane. The movie is so good. It's really, really sick. That's a classic, instant classic.
Thanks, guys. Let's talk about something else.
This
Hey,
is
when's Uninvited 3 coming out?
No. I have so many memes for that. They're coming soon. The memes, not the movie. No.
Facets 2, Bonnie's up, and then
Bonnie's come back.
Uninvited 3. Winter camping, somewhere exotic.
With 32 girls.
With
Yes.
32 girls in one tent, suffering from oxygen deprivation and farts.